Nick, in my opinion, to discuss this, I'm joined... My God, he's dedicated. talkTV's chief political commentator who was with me 14 hours ago, Peter the Legend Cardwell, and former advisor to the PM, Tony Blair John McTernan. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Pete, I'll start with you. I said this to you this morning on breakfast. To me, this is a seismic moment. Let's talk about his sort of... I think Thatcher was great. Everybody went, well, he complimented Clement. Attlee talked about Tony Blair, not the illegal war in Iraq. But the fact of the matter is, for a Labour leader to publicly salute a woman who is still perceived by many in the North as a divisive character is either the biggest political gamble of his career or well thought out, because I'm thinking he's 20 points in front in most polls. Why the hell would you put yourself in this?
Well, it's a very good point, and I think she is a divisive character, whether you love or loathe Margaret Thatcher.
I loved her.
There's no doubt about that. And it was fascinating that he was in the Sunday Telegraph. He was also on the same page directly opposite Bill Cash, one of the most sort of telegraphy kind of MPs, talking about stopping the boats. Really, really interesting move, very brave move by Keir Starmer. And he's taken the calculation that there are a lot of people who are clearly very annoyed with the Conservatives. About 20% of people haven't made up their mind yet in terms of how they want to vote. And he's appealing to them. But there are some saying that actually the 45% of people who say they're going to vote Labour, well, maybe he should be reassuring them, actually. Maybe he should be focusing on them a bit more than people who are never going to vote for him.
John McTernan, if I can bring you in, past advisor to Tony Blair, it's either the biggest gamble in the world or it's incredibly calculated. I'm interested in your opinion, because one of the things that I thought about in the 2019 election was the Labour Party lost. Now, we can talk about Brexit, but I think the Labour Party got to a point where it expected the North to vote for them. It was always like, oh, well, they'll vote for us. And they didn't. That red wall voted for Boris Johnson, and that happened. Do you think this is a wise move by Starmer? We'll talk about spending in a minute. Do you think it's a really wise move to stand up and salute a woman who, to many in the North and in the Labour Party, is, well, the devil, to be honest?
Look, I understand the tactics, but I do think it was an error. The tactic
Can you hear me?
is,
You need to split the screen, him and Peter.
As Peter said, there are people who Keir believes he should reassure. The Tories, they've voted Tory in the past, they've been maybe Labour in the past, but Labour's been defeated 4 times in a row in elections, so there's a lot of former Labour voters out there. So there's a reassurance move there. But the core fact is 45% of the country have said they want to vote Labour. Only 25% want to vote Tory. That means there aren't really any swing voters there. You shouldn't really...
But we know there are, John, with the greatest respect. There are many, many people who might say one thing to a pollster. When the day comes and that cross is your moment, you're going to think about...
I take that point, but it's been 45% since the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
and Rishi Sunak is still twice as unpopular as Boris Johnson was when his party chucked him over Partygate. So there's something settled in the mind of the public.
There's actually polling as well. Sorry to interrupt you, John, but there is actually polling to support your point. There's polling today showing that Rishi Sunak is actually less popular than Liz Truss, even amongst 2019 Conservative voters.
And you know why that is, right? And this is a really strong personal opinion. You know, I mean, I can't see that much ground between them both. I think they're both boring politicians, if you want me to be honest. But I look at Labour. When I think of that survey we did last week on breakfast, 11% more people in this country, right, said they trusted Labour economically. He says today, Labour won't turn on the spending taps. This is a massive thing, because when I was brought up, you were told, and I'm being straight to both of you, you know, Labour Party would promise, you know, pay rises here, there and everywhere. Everybody would go on strike. He's appealing to the he's almost parking his tanks on the Tories' lawn, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Thatcher, spending, and you have to say, if you look at it, he's not doing a bad job, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Look, I think it is a successful strategy by Keir Starmer, particularly given he's turned it around in the last 2 years, because the defeat of 2019 was followed by a pandemic, which prevented any politics, followed by the furlough, where Rishi Sunak gave money to the country, followed by the vaccine being discovered, thanks, I think, to the government under Boris Johnson investing in all kinds of approaches to finding a vaccine. So an amazing turnaround, and it is because the government have evacuated a whole load of areas of conservatism. I can't, you can't imagine.
I don't think there are... Well, you know what I'm going to say to you? I don't think it's a Tory government at all. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Whatever your political persuasion, Pete, right? The Tory party has now led the 3 top jobs. Jeremy Hunt, a Remainer, right? David Cameron, that's a bit left field, isn't it? A man who stalked away after, Brexit went wrong. And a Prime Minister who hasn't got a mandate from the British people. I almost don't think it's worth Starmer doing the Thatcher thing. I almost feel like if he kept his trap shut, he could get to 10 Downing Street. But I guess he's working on the assumption that there will forever be people, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, John, to you or anybody else, that go, well, hold on a second, Sir Keir. 5 years ago, you were supporting an anti-Semite in Jeremy Corbyn, and you were saying, I want to serve in his shadow cabinet. So maybe people remember that.
Well, it is a remarkable political journey that Sir Keir Starmer has been on. I think there's probably more unity in the Conservative Party than people think there is. I was talking to someone tonight who was at the One Nation meeting of Conservatives. It happens every week.
Is that the middle bit?
Sort of the left wing of the Conservative Party, basically. But they are a big, powerful group, of course, not as vocal as many on the right, but certainly their decision and their support for Rishi Sunak on the migration stuff today from the Home Secretary, James Cleverly. Quite a radical change in many regards. Well, they're largely supportive, I was told by someone in that meeting, and that is will be good news for Rishi Sunak, certainly, and perhaps slightly unexpected, because there are many on the right of the party who are saying this is a good thing and this is needed. These were the kind of things that Suella Braverman wanted to bring in, but this is both political and a massive thing in terms of policy.
John, can I ask you, front of the Telegraph, this is just dropped on us, migrant curbs to cut arrivals by a quarter. I'm quite interested. Starmer admits a 28 billion green vow may not be affordable. There he is straight away. I mean, the thing about it is, and I'd love to know this from you, you used to advise Blair, is Starmer and I'm not saying flip-flopping, but is he changing opinions on things? Is that a sign, actually, not of weakness, but of a leader who's aware of the difficulties that he's going to inherit? Is he giving himself breathing space, John?
Yes, he is. Real politics isn't sticking to your opinion regardless of the changing circumstances. Real political leadership is showing flexibility, because if you don't bend, you break. And Keir's saying the obvious thing, which is that we don't know the state of the economy next year. We don't know the state of the public finances, but we know, for one thing, that the budget was going to be based on the autumn statement, which was based on projections of very large-scale migration. Every year, the government has been balancing its budget, getting in more revenue, more growth because of the growth in migration. This proposal to cut it actually cuts the room for manoeuvre of the Tory government next year and for Labour in the future. And this may unravel. I think Peter may well be right that One Nation Tories are okay with it. Tim Stanley of the Telegraph has been tweeting that he's quite appalled that the new rules mean that 74% of British people can never marry a foreign person. So you can't marry a foreign man or foreign woman because you need to have an income in the top 25% of earning to be able to bring a bride or a husband into the country. That may well run counter to Tory beliefs about families and family values. The idea that only the richest people can choose who they fall in love with.
You would acknowledge, John, you would acknowledge that something needs to be done. Although, if you listen to this station repeatedly, I think there's a feeling amongst a lot of people that and I said it earlier, that it's politics, it's electioneering. I think that the people are saying things that they know are not achievable.
And I'm happy. I've been happy with the numbers coming in the last 2 or 3 years, because it shows that Brexit is working, which is that with our controls, we get to choose who comes, and we've been getting real quality people wanting to come to Britain from around the world.
But you say that, John, and you must explain to me, because you're an expert. Let me ask you this. You say good quality people, right? What I fail to understand, and nobody can explain this to me, is if there's 3 million people unemployed, and let's not have the old chestnut, they're all disabled and mentally ill, they're not. There are 1 million people, I suspect, on the dole who could work, given training and help. Why do we not spend the money that we spend on illegal migration and this processing system and millions in hotels? Why don't we spend that on training British people from this country to get up and go to work and give something back for them and the country? I don't get that.
So the reality is there are a lot of people with long-term health difficulties. There are
not 3 million, my friend. Not 3 million.
But there are also people who are students in those numbers of people who are economically inactive, mothers or fathers with children under 2. There's all kinds of things in there. But the truth is, our economy is made up of aging people.
Yeah.
Aging people need more healthcare, need more social care. They're also less entrepreneurial. So we're bringing in from the world. Now, I'm actually proud that people from all around the world want to come and live in this great country. And I found it slightly unconservative, the aversion to people coming to live in our country or study in our country and add something to our country.
But you would understand when you say unconservative, what I want you to acknowledge, both of you, I'd like to take Pete's opinion on this as well, is, and I'm in the middle of this, right? There are people in this country, whether you like it or not, John, and maybe Pete, who are really struggling. The jams, the just about managing, that pay their bills and just get by. I don't care what anybody tells me on the left. Those people will look at a migration policy, both legal and illegal, that sees the hotel situation, that sees all of this money spent, Peter Carball, and they will go, hold on a second, I've paid my stamp and I've paid my tax and I'm not getting jack back, and that's why people get frustrated, right?
You're absolutely right, and I think there are a lot of people who will look at that local hotel down the road, 3 or 4 star hotel where migrants are staying, and think, well, actually, hold on, we can only afford to go there once a year for Father's Day or a special birthday or something. These people are there all the time and eating the food and living this life. So fairness is actually how Rishi Sunak has tried to characterise this. And with today's measures as well, John is absolutely right in terms of bringing people into the country. It's going to drive up wages, which I think is going to be problematic for inflation. But in terms of politically, it is going to bring the numbers down. And that is all that the Conservatives... They've made a calculation here, and that is what they have decided matters at this exact moment. Not the economic side of it. There are a lot of small businesses that will despair with this, and larger businesses that will despair in terms of bringing people in and the thresholds. But in terms of bringing the numbers down, I think it's going to work.
But they're wrong about the numbers.
Why is that, John?
You see, I think that politically, this is a response. Think about it. This is a December response to November statistics.
Yeah.
So whatever they do, the next stats will be next November.
Yeah.
And they're talking about a May or an October election. So it's like, are they actually saying they're going to wait to have the election in December or January 2025?
There will be estimates before that, though, won't there?
About this, which is like, you're going to say you're going to do these tough things, but actually you're going to make sure you hold the election before the numbers actually come up.
It's a fair point, John.
Can I ask you both something? We've made, and I think it's right, the acknowledgement that Starmer has dragged the Labour Party from where it was under Corbyn. He's appealed to a certain person and people in the United Kingdom in terms of, I'm not going to spend just for the sake of spending. He was probably stronger on Hamas, the terrorist group. He was quicker and stronger than Sunak, and he seems to have stood up to the left wing of his party. This story, Pete, from yesterday earlier today, Rail Union Mick Whelan, the glitzy party, whilst the rest of the United Kingdom is struggling to get a damn train, is not. The optics of that were appalling. It was all over the Sun. It was a glitzy Christmas bash with Labour MPs, the head of ASLEF, the rail union's out enjoying himself. Yes, everybody can have a Christmas party. Do you believe that amongst a lot of people, the fear about Labour is still there, or has Starmer done enough for all those people who in the past would have gone, oh, I wouldn't trust Labour, it's going to be worse under Labour? Do you think that's ebbing away, or do you think it's still a major part of this next election?
I think it is ebbing away. I think the frustration, the failure is gone. I mean, in 2017, when they had the election, if, God forbid, something had happened like another London Bridge, the question people were asking was, well, do I want Diane Abbott in Cobra making those decisions? Or now it's Yvette Cooper. And most people will probably say, well, Yvette Cooper, OK, may not necessarily agree with her, but she's a very competent person who has a lot of experience. And today, you know, she had a very, very strong response to what James Cleverly had to say. She knows her stuff. She is someone who is a very, very competent person. And there are a lot of people on the Labour front benches like that. We may not know all their names, but people like Wes Streeting, people like Peter Kyle as well. These are really serious. Yeah, these are serious individuals. These are people who can govern, and people are sort of saying, well, hold on a second, would it be so terrible if many Conservatives are saying, would it be so terrible if Labour took over? And what is absolutely always the case, and John will know this far better than I will, at the end of 13 years of any government, there's always the sense of itchy feet. Yeah. Maybe we should give the other guys a bit of a go.
13-year itch. John, finally, very brief answer if I can, my friend. You were with Blair when he swept to power, and I thought that, you know, even that time, and I remember it in '97, there was something charismatic about him. He seemed to transcend, I think, different demographics and really attracted people that would never have considered Labour. It all went wrong because he took us to an illegal war. But I ask you this, is he part of this? Is Starmer modelling himself on Blair? Is Blair helping out, pulling his strings in any way? Quick response to that, my friend?
No, he's not. They get on well, they talk, but Starmer's his own man. Starmer's from the left of the party. I always say this, said this to my mum at the end of last year. Keir Starmer is not a Blairite. He's from the left like you, Mum. And she said, good. Don't need any more people in the party like you, John.
Interesting. And final question. Will Keir Starmer be Britain's next Prime Minister, in your opinion, John McTernan?
Absolutely.
God help us. I don't mean
Been
that.
decided. The public have moved.
Very quickly, thank you indeed, John.